So hello, welcome back to the channel. Are you looking for a simple tip to get more hip rotation? You've come to the right place. I don't really think there's a golfer out there who isn't trying to get more hip rotation into their downswing. And the reason that they are doing this is because by getting more hip rotation, you can get more shoulder rotation. And the shoulder rotation is important because by getting more shoulder rotation, you can delay your release and get your hands further ahead of the ball at impact. So how do you get more hip rotation, especially if you're maybe getting on a bit in years and your hips are very stiff? Well, there's a very simple solution to this. Stand open to the ball. If you stand with your hips open in the address position, then you are going to have more hip rotation at impact and therefore be able to get your shoulders further rotated in your hands ahead of the golf ball. Yes, I hear you say, John, that's a very good idea, but aren't I going to hit everything then to the left of the target if I'm a right-handed golfer? No, you're not, as long as you control your shoulder rotation. One of the things that you've got to understand about your alignment with your feet is it has as good as no influence over the direction that you hit the ball, so long as your shoulder plane remains parallel to the direction you're hitting. So if you can imagine that my shoulders are turning in a plane more or less with the golf ball, as long as this remains constant, it really doesn't matter how I am standing to the ball. In fact, what you will find immediately if you do this drill is that you will be able to turn your hips and therefore your shoulders more towards the target. The only negative, and as everything in life it's never win-win, is you can't make as much backswing because opening your hips and feet to the target is restricting the amount of rotation you can make away from the target, and therefore it will cost you club head speed. However, in my experience, especially if you're looking at short irons, often the increased lean that you have on the golf club, that means the further that the club head is behind your hands at impact, the better the energy transfer, because not only are you hitting the ball more in the center of the club face, you are de-lofting the club as well. And by the combination of a center hit and a de-lofted club, you are getting a far better energy transfer. So it may well be that you lose 1 or 2 miles an hour of club head speed because you're not actually making as big a run up to the ball. At the same time, you could be winning anything up to 10 or 15% more ball speed, which obviously is going to do more than make up for the small loss of club head speed. The only thing that you are going to have to do is learn or teach your shoulders to stay in plane even when your hips are open to the target. So if you can get a target line, open your hips to it, and still get your shoulders rotating in the same way as they were doing when they were parallel, you will actually find that you are automatically opening your hips because that's where they want to be. Now, how much should you do this? Well, really it depends an awful lot on your flexibility, your mobility, and to a certain extent how good your shoulders are at staying in plane. I think the best proponent of this was Lee Trevino, who was really one of the best golfers in the world when I was growing up. And this guy was open to every shot that he hit, from a driver to a wedge. And he was still hitting the ball good distances, but he was hitting one of the best strikers of a golf ball there's ever been, and as straight as you know it. He got that ball really on the fairway, and although in his early career he was hitting a lot of fades which you would associate with an open stance, as he got older he actually changed and started hitting draws, and he was just simply dropping it on the inside and swinging through, which is the same way that everybody else does it. But it's really to do with how his arms and his shoulders were interacting with one another rather than his hips. All that his hips were doing were opening up, and by opening up they were allowing more shoulder rotation, and by getting more shoulder rotation he was getting his hands further ahead of the ball. And this is exactly what I'm saying you should be trying. Now obviously you can try it first maybe with a short iron, so that you don't feel too strange doing this. See how much club head speed you are actually losing doing this. But I think you will actually find that even if you're standing maybe 15, 20, even 30 degrees open in your hips and your in the address position, you aren't losing 30% of the club head speed. You've got to think about it. Your hips can normally turn around about 15 degrees in the backswing. So if you open your stance by around about 10 degrees, you're losing probably around about 10% of your backswing. If you go to 20, then you're probably up to around about 25% of your backswing. But whether that is necessarily going to cost you 25% of your club head speed, you will have to get that measured. And there's all kinds of lovely little devices which will help you to do that. But I think you will actually find, if you just look at the distance that the golf ball is going, that despite this open stance, you are still able to get the golf ball going a decent distance. And if you time it better than I did with that last shot, you can actually get really crisp strikes on the golf ball, a nice low ball flight because your hands are ahead of the ball, and you are getting a better energy transfer and no loss of distance. Something for you to try, especially if you're having trouble with your hip rotation, especially if you're getting on a little bit. Go out there, try it out with your short irons, try it out with your long irons, and I say try it out with your driver. If it works for you as ever, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please do so. Don't forget the little bell if you want notifications the next time that I post a video. A big thank you to all of my patrons. If you would like to support the channel by becoming a patron, I shall leave a link below. Otherwise, I wish you all a very good week. We will see you soon. Until the next time, goodbye.